Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our second chairlift chat of the year. Tonight we've got Tim Gale and Danny Geiger, sorry. Both coaches with the OWI, and we're going to have a bit of a chat about their story, and we might try and get some hints from them about the future. So I might kick off by asking Tim to tell us about his early days here at Buller.
Yeah, early days here at Buller. Interschools, year 9, I think was really, we used to be a week a year kind of family ski holiday, and it's led me into interschools and then into the race club as a full-time athlete. Realised pretty quickly when I got to go to Austria that I was never going to be an alpine racer at 15. We had the Austrian junior champion living in the town we were in, and he smoked all of us on the training hill by the good guys by a couple of seconds, me by tens of seconds. So that dream died pretty quickly, but looked at the coaches and thought that looked like a pretty good way to go, and became a ski instructor here and went through the level system and ended up after doing all my levels at Team Buller, where I'm still been coaching there since 2009 and now kind of running the program.
And Danny, you had the opposite story, mate. You were born with skis on at Hotham?
Yeah. So I come from an Austrian family. I grew up in a ski resort called Zürs am Arlberg in Austria. So probably different to Timmy. I was on skis at kind of 2 years old. But maybe a bit of a similar story in the sense of we moved back to Australia in 1998. We were up at Hotham. My dad was running some hotels up there, and I was part of the race club. From 8 years old. I actually used to very much dislike skiing back in the day. I was more of a swimmer, so I used to gallivant away from my coaches and stuff like that. But got into the race club there, into schools and the kids series, and was an okay ski racer. But kind of probably at the age of 16 got the tap on the shoulder from my dad that I wasn't quite fast enough, and end up in coaching. So it was going to be a gap year, but here I am 18 years later still doing it.
And so your transition to coaching, how did that come about?
Yeah, so my brother, he was quite a high-level racer, and my dad kind of knew the sport quite well. So I was always a decent skier, but I probably knew the technical side of skiing better than I understood how to ski fast. So it was almost a natural transition. Kind of, I got a little bit older, same as Timmy, was going overseas, getting smoked a few races, but still wanted to stay involved, and started coaching at 17 at the club up at Hotham, and that was a transition in, and never really looked back after that.
And am I right in saying you were like younger than the athletes you were coaching when you first went to the Olympics?
Yeah, that's correct. I got my first gig with the OWIA in 2013. So I was 23 or 22 years old at that point, and then coached at the first Olympics 2014 in Russia. So I was 23. Most of the athletes, I think out of the 5 athletes we had, only one was younger than me. So a bit of a weird experience when you look at a coach and they're probably 3-4 years your junior, but worked well in the end.
I guess that's why you're now coaching aerials rather than alpine, because you can use your height as an advantage. Is that the case?
Yeah, I'm a bit of an old soul, so I look a bit gruff from all the sunshine outside. So I kind of look 40 anyway.
Just sticking on the Olympics. So 2014, Russia. Well, I won't ask you to tell the Russian stories, but how did that go?
It went well. We had some good results with a few of the athletes. Katya Kremer, who is a Buller girl, I think she was 7th, so skied small finals. It was an intense Olympics, a lot of security obviously being in Russia. I was quite young as well, so I was probably a little bit starstruck going in. But the experience in general kind of shaped my coaching afterwards, and it kind of solidified that I want to do this for the long term. So it was daunting, but it was very rewarding.
And Timmy, how did you make it to the Olympics?
Well, I actually haven't been to a Winter Olympics yet. But my connection to it is building, I like to say. Over the years, early days, Team Buller, and even just before I went into Team Buller, I was very lucky with my timing that I had Jakara Anthony in my snow squad group, and then she moved to Team Buller with me. I had her for 3 or 4 years in her development phase, and then to watch her go on, we had some her as well as Claudia Guelli in that cohort. So it was pretty phenomenal to have them year round full time for a few years and watch them develop and then go on to the Olympics. But from my point of view, I think everyone asked, "Did you know if that was where particularly Jakara was going to go?" And you don't know. You think they have things that kind of are markers that look towards that they could do it, but yeah, I always say Jakara is the hardest person I've ever coached. She's can be quite difficult at times, and if Jack doesn't want to do something, you can't bribe. Even as a kid, you couldn't bribe her. You couldn't offer up a little lolly here or do this and something else will happen over here. But yeah, she's a tough one, but very self-determined.
So just while we're talking about Jakara, did you actually trick her into racing one day?
We actually did. Josh and I, one of the old XTM series Alpine races, she flat out refused. And it's probably the only time we slipped one past her. She was first on the start list, so we're like, flat out refused. I'm not doing it. No, can't get me to do it. We're like, all right, how about if you 4-run? Oh, okay, give us your bib. And I'd been working in the race department a little bit at that stage as well. I said to them, just let her go. And she then popped up on the results. Josh and I, for the next couple of weeks, had nothing for Jack. She would not give us the time of day for about 2 or 3 weeks after that. Just absolutely nothing. You tricked me. That's it. And so, yeah, she's pretty strong on the trust. And, yeah, we broke that. Josh and I learned a pretty valuable lesson that day, that it probably wasn't worth tricking her to race in that event.
And sorry, going back to the previous question where I was talking about the Olympics, it was Britt Cox I was referring to.
Oh, yeah. So early days of coaching with Team Buller, we were 2010, and I was coaching the Mogul kids, or junior kids actually. It would have been Jakara and Claudia and that then. And we were in Park City, Deer Valley, and Matt Graham, Nicole Parks, I think at the time, Britt Cox, all got their first World Cup starts. And they got 2 starts at that event, and Britt pulled out a couple of good results, and all of a sudden everyone looked after the second event and was like, actually, I think she's qualified. And they had, Pato, I remember, had 12 hours of paperwork to get done. He had a deadline to get her into the games, and everyone kind of sat back and we were all stunned that yeah, she'd made the games, and all of a sudden this 15-year-old youngest person at the games in 2010, and off she went, and they'd changed her whole schedule. It was like booking flights, getting her out the door, and like, yep, you're off to Vancouver. So yeah, that was probably our really first, where a lot of the athletes who were training with her every day were like, we can actually do this. If Britt can get there, I think we can actually achieve that goal.
And Danny, how did you end up working for the Canadian ski team?
Yeah, so I did a couple years with the Canadian ski team. Kind of, yeah. Yeah, it was probably straight after the Pyeongchang Olympics 2018. So I just finished up with the Aussies. I was a little bit burnt out, and I got a phone call from the high performance manager of the Canadian ski cross team at the time, asking if I'd come work in with the team, and they just, I think, collected 3 out of the 6 medals, so world's best team at the time. So I said yes, for sure come. First camp in Chile in La Pava, and jumped into the program over there, which was obviously quite different to the Aussie system at that point. You know, we had a Brady Lehman on an Olympic gold and Mario Thompson Olympic gold. So jumped in with them, and it was great learning experience actually. So I think I ended up doing 2-3 years, and then COVID happened, and had some kids and couldn't quite travel as much as I used to. But yeah, very good experience with the Canadians there.
Yeah, I'm sure that a wealth of experience, and it was good that we were beating them in the medal tally for at least the first week this year.
I think it was more that you couldn't convince Annie to move to Calgary, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were umming and ahhing about maybe moving over to Canada, and my wife was adamant that we shouldn't go. And now ums and ahs, maybe we should have gone at some point, but yeah.
Interestingly, you brought up Annie, Tim, because I understand that you knew Annie before Danny. Is that right?
Yeah. So I've known Annie since my first year of race club, 2001. So yeah, Annie and I have been friends for a long time, and then Danny arrived on the scene a little bit later, so we've become mates ever since then.
Cut your lunch, did he?
No, Annie and I have just always been great ski buddies. We've we did a season in Whistler together as well. So yeah, Annie and I have spent lots of time hanging out and skiing around the world together.
So Danny, who have been your role models? Who are the people who've inspired you to be the coach you are?
Yeah, so I mean, the first coach I kind of worked under is a guy called Jeff Brooks, who ran the club up at Hotham. He probably taught me the most about coaching in that initial phase and the work ethic behind it. Obviously working in the Canadian system with Stan Hare, who's just phenomenal in terms of execution, and he's very diligent and thorough in how he plans stuff and gets great success from it. So coaching wise, I've worked with a heap of very good people, and then I mean, it's the cliche, but it always comes back to the family as well. My dad's quite cluey on skiing. My brother is ski coach for the Australian Paralympic team, and then Annie as well was ski coaching for a while. So a few good coaches I've worked with in family, really.
And Tim, what about you? Who inspired you to be the coach you are?
Coaching, I think, kind of came to me pretty early on. I started off coaching as a basketball coach, really, back as a year 8 student at school and a bunch of prep kids. And the first real experience I had in high performance was around the era of the NBL with I was one of those kids who used to run out and wipe up the sweat off the floor at the Melbourne Tigers in the mid-90s. And so I spent a lot of time in the change rooms listening to people like Lindsay Gaze and Andrew Gaze and those sort of people. So I was very lucky. I didn't probably realise it at the time. And then my early ski coaches here, I had probably a bit of chalk and cheese early on, and one who I was probably not up to the standard when I first started race club, to be honest. And I had Lee Delahoy, who's still around. He was my first race club coach, and he worked with me over the school holidays. And then I got thrown in the deep end when I joined the group with Annie, and we had a guy by the name of Albert Doppelhofer who went on to run the German women's program for about a decade. And he was, that was pretty tough under him, and it was always, you're behind, so you've got to work harder than everyone else to catch up. So he was pretty inspirational. And then working alongside the likes of Pete McNeil, who's now the national team coach for the Mogul program. He was our head coach here at Team Buller when I started off for Moguls. So, yeah, working alongside people like him have really helped me along my way in my journey.
But unlike Danny, who's always sort of stayed related to the snow, you've had a couple of affairs in other roles, haven't you?
Yeah, I've jaunted out into other areas. I kind of did the 8 years back and forth around the world ski teaching and coaching, and then decided that maybe a real job, so to speak, was the way to go. And that only lasted a couple of years. And I started a ski shop, Aussie Ski, with Richard Ross, who still continues that shop today. And then I ended up working for a motion simulation business that made car racing simulators. And I actually ended up coaching a few race drivers. I'm not in that realm at all, but coaching kind of seems to trickle through. And then got the opportunity just before COVID, actually, to jump back into coaching full time. And yeah, I jumped at it. We had no kids at that point, and somehow convinced my wife that seemed like a great idea. And she's supported me on the road again, and then come back in and did that with Team Buller for a little bit, and then jumped into the aerial program full time for a few years just before now Danny's taken over that role in the last few years.
And Danny, when I say what's your greatest Olympic memory, what springs to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean that's a tough question. I probably wouldn't have one specific moment. Um, we've had athletes have top 8 results at the games, which is always great to see it when they move through and they kind of like achieve what they're trying to do on the big stage. But I guess it's more it's cliche, but it's again the athletes who can go out there and kind of grasp the opportunity and they finish the day and they're happy and they got a smile on their face and they've executed to the best of their ability. They're the kind of moments where you could sit back and go, okay, wow, this is what it's all about. So at the end of the day, there's only 3 medals you can get in the event. They're obviously very hard to win. But if the athlete goes out and puts it all on the line and gets it done, then hats off to them.
And Tim, when you're thinking about identifying future athletes, what is it you're looking for?
It's a hard one. It's a fun place to play. Danny's looking at me like, yeah, it is. No, I think a lot of it, there's a lot of people who have similar skills and all of that sort of stuff. And you can measure lots of things, but sometimes there's just this feeling and an X factor that some of them do have. There's athletes who've gone through, particularly in the aerials program, like you talk to people who had Lydia Lassala in that time, and she had something where she wanted to go out and just wasn't about the result. It wasn't about winning a gold medal. It was about proving to themselves more than anything and doing something that no one else has ever done. We've got, I don't want to name the athlete in the program at the moment because I don't want to put the pressure on her, but there's an athlete I asked early on a few years ago into her journey. She hadn't even hit an aerials jump at this point. And I asked all the athletes what they wanted to individually. She just turned to me and she goes, I want to go and perform a trick that no other female's ever done. And I'm like, that's kind of the mindset that's the intangible one that kind of comes through. So yeah, when we're recruiting athletes, it's you can measure their tricks and their strength and all of those kind of physical attributes, but it's really at the end of the day, the difference is what's in the mind and how coachable they are and inquisitive. Like the athletes who are really inquisitive seem to rise to the top because they want to learn more, they want to know more, and they want to push the boundaries. And they get to a point and they're like, well, why are we doing it this way? Is that just because it's the way we've always done it? And those ones who push you outside your comfort zone to be like, hang on a second, maybe we are just doing it because it's the way it's always been done. Let's try something else. They tend to be the ones who seem to rise to the top.
So, Danny, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who's going to medal for us in 2030 in France?
It's not on video at all, Danny.
Yeah, I mean, probably same as Timmy here. I'll play that with a straight bat. But we have a strong cohort of Aussies coming through in multiple disciplines. So, I mean, I think, again, we showed at this Olympic Games, we're a nation. It's not really a ski nation, but we are a ski nation because we're strongest or one of the strongest in the world in at least 3 disciplines. So it's very exciting times ahead for sure. Obviously can't drop names, but I think look out for the Aussies in 2030.
Oh, I reckon I'm going to ask that question again. I'm not happy for that answer. Neither is our silver medalist from this games.
I mean, Danny Scott. If you look in the aerials program, we have a pedigree of athletes. So Danny Scott, obviously, phenomenal success at the last games, and you saw the hard work that went through it. We had a Laura Peel who unfortunately had a crash before the games, but again, one of the greatest to ever do it. So the World Cup program, Ailey, Frigo, Abby Wilcox, we've got so many athletes stepping on podiums. And then this kind of next generation, Riley Flanagan, Sid Stevens, Elise Calero, Mary Perkins. We have depth coming through. So pick a name from there and we'll hopefully go 1, 2, 3.
Well done. I think you've got all the athletes named, have you? All right. So, Timmy, we were talking about POFOs. And for those of you who aren't aware, parents of future Olympians. Have you got any POFO stories you want to share with us?
I don't know if I want to share them, but there's always a few. I think our whole mountain's built on it in our season programs, isn't it? No, there's definitely a few. You get the parents occasionally. How do I get them there? How do I make them the Olympian? And I'm like, that's not really the right question. And we try and softly guide them back to the motivation can't come from you, and it really needs to come from the kids. And my philosophy around it, and I think it's served the club really well for a long time, is and getting the outcomes is that you've just got to give the kids the opportunities and then let them walk through the door. And I say to lots of parents, the goal is to keep the doors open for as long as possible. And if the kids and the athletes decide to walk through it, then that's the way to go. But yeah, I've had parents tell me how great their kid is and that they should be in so and so's group because they're so much better than this person. And then you sit down and look at the results, and you're like, yeah, okay, I'm not sure what results list you're looking at because the one I'm looking at is very different. So yeah, no, we get a few, but I think each year goes by, we get better at weeding them out, and yeah, they don't last long. They tend to come in for a couple of seasons, bang and crash around, and then they're gone again. Yeah, I think that's really how it happens.
So, as potential POFOs, both of you, you've got two with one on the way, and I saw you pushing an articulated pram this morning in your shorts. Anyway, you both got kids in squad. What do you think? Are they when are they ripe? In 16 years' time, is it?
Yeah, no pressure on my little man Louis. He's got to really step up and get after it. Nah, he, as I say, I just hope he enjoys what he's going to be stuck up here. So hopefully he enjoys it. Everyone gives me a bit of stuff and goes, "Oh, what happens if he wants to be a racer?" I'm like, yeah, cool. If he wants to be up here, if he wants to toboggan 6 hours a day down at the toboggan park every weekend, that'll do me fine as long as he wants to be here.
And Danny, your father, has he got an opinion about what your children should be doing?
I think my father-in-law probably a bit more. So they're very passionate skiers, but it's funny. I always thought I'd be kind of stand away and let them have fun and go, but watching my 5-year-old Lottie ski in snow squad and then just coming down, I almost can't help but coach a little bit in my brain. I'm like, oh, she could probably step on the outside ski a bit more and I'll do a bit of this, so I got to kind of check myself. So maybe I'll be one of those pofos.
I think it's one of the hardest things, knowing what you're looking at, and then just I watch. I actually had to outsource. It's probably one of my bit of shame is I had to outsource teaching Louis to ski school because he just would not listen, and I was like, right, this is not working. So, and I had a few people be like, oh, you've taught so many people, and I'm like, nah, not this one. He's defiant.
And just Danny, just on the because you had a small excursion outside of coaching. You went to Melbourne Girls Grammar during COVID, but you, surprisingly, when we were talking prior to tonight, you didn't know what a POFO was. I'm really surprised at that.
I mean, I ran the club at Hotham as well. I just never heard the term, so I've obviously dealt with a lot of passionate parents, shall we say. I kind of I stepped off the Canadian ski team in COVID, and then I was back in Melbourne, and my wife Annie was pregnant, so was looking for a job, and found the one with the private school and thought it'd be quite a cruisy gig. It was not as cruisy as I thought it was going to be, but yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. The parents generally, for the most part, want the best for their kids, and sometimes it comes out in the wrong way, but I think Timmy's probably a bit more across the popos now. I've kind of stepped away from that demographic for a while now.
Now, Tim, you didn't talk about your car buying days when you're selling R8s and Dino Ferraris, and
it was short-lived. It was I am a bit of a car guy, and ended up buying cars for a little while. That was about a 8-month stint, and that was actually right before I ended up back coaching full time. And so I worked for Duttons in Melbourne, who have quite the car collection and have got to work with see some amazing cars and very limited things. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting day to day, and coaching definitely suits me a lot more than sitting in an office, that's for sure.
Well, on that note, before we wrap up, I'll just invite some questions. And we've got a floating microphone if anyone has a specific question they'd like to ask of the boys.
Hi, to both of you. Do the students choose you or do you choose the students?
I think there's a mix of both. I think sometimes I've definitely, and in my coaching career, I've only ever really had one athlete that I've never been able to get through to. It was, he was about 14 at the time, and I was coaching him, and we just didn't click, couldn't. Most of the time you can find a common ground with a lot of them, but yes, occasionally on the very, very rare occasion, it just doesn't work. And so, yeah, there is a bit of the choosing and the, yeah, it's very two-way street. And the goal of the coach really is to figure it out. So if it's not working, how you figure it out. But yeah, I've only ever had one who I just could not crack the code to really get on his page and figure out how to coach him.
What about Jakara? I understand she was a difficult person to coach, but there was a bit of a payback one day. Do you want to share that story with us?
There was a payback, chat. That's actually a great one. So yeah, Jakara was tough, but you knew what you were getting. She always stood very strong on where her line was on anything. Josh and I actually had an absolute cracker one day. We were going up Burke Street Express, and Jakara, I don't think many people know, she actually taught in the ski school here for a couple of seasons pre going and training up at Perisher as a bit of a part-time job. And there was many times we'd be standing at the top of something and Jakara would be like, "Nah, I'm not coming down. You can't make me." And she'd ski round or whatever. She was at, we were coming up Burke Street Express, and she was in a private. She was at the bottom of that steep hill just out the front of the Arlberg and Twin Towers there. And this 5 or 6 year old girl was not moving. Jakara was at the bottom, and perfectly timed. Josh and I are on the chair together going over the top, and we're like, that is the absolute payback for everything you have put us through. All of the times you've refused to do anything. And we gave it to her from the chairlift, of course, and she just looked up at us like, oh no. Any other time this could have happened, but those two had to be on the chair above me.
That is a great story, and I think you can dine out on that for a little while. Now, Tim and Danny, thank you very much for tonight. Much appreciated. Please invite everyone to thank them.